Welcome to the story in your head. Ron, today we're going to talk about curiosity, but not just curiosity, human curiosity, but we're going to talk about AI and curiosity too.
You mean something like, is AI curious? Is generative AI curious?
Yes.
God. Curiosity is that's a unique currently a unique human emotion or mood. Like, how do you hold curiosity? What is curiosity? So we all have the same kind of interpretation here.
Yeah. For me, curiosity is that space of like dissonance in me when I don't know something and I want to know more. Like when I don't understand something or or someone, like maybe uh, I can be curious about a new person, I can be curious about a topic, but there's some space of I don't know something and I genuinely want to learn more about that.
I love that. Perfect. What I'm going to add into that is wonder.
Ah, yeah.
Like there's a say, I don't know it, I don't know what it is, but you're in a mode of wonder. Like, what is it? What can it be? Right? Because I can also be in a mode of, like, I didn't do anything. I guess I'm not good, or I don't know something. I guess I'm not smart enough, or I'm not space. But it's a place of wonder. Like, what missing in my head? What could I add in there? And with wonder and curiousness, they kind of go together. So we have this thing called curiousness, and humans seem to be very curious. If you've had kids, you realize those kids are super curious, more so than you would like them to be curious.
Why?
Uh,
Why? Why?
why? Could you get down off the bookshelf, please? This is not a ladder, but there's something up there I want to see, right? So there's a curiousness that we humans seem to have, and we are what is creating AI. So if we're the ones creating AI, does that curiousness come through to our AI? That's the question I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's interesting. A couple things come to mind here. Like, first of all, yes, we created AI as humans, and the content that we created was what was used to train the AI. That was human creation. And then the intention behind what we're using AI for, like what we're asking of AI, that is still our human intention. But then there's been some times where, like, I found some great prompts to use, to be my sparring partner. And I'll create AI to be my sparring partner. And all of a sudden, AI can appear to be curious to me, asking me questions that are relevant to the situation and helping me see holes or gaps that I have. And so, I always think about curiosity being human, but as you prompt AI in different ways, you can trigger it to at least be asking questions. Maybe not to be curious. It's doing what you're prompting it to do, but it could appear that it's curious.
So there's thank you. There's a little space in there that AI is really good at gathering up the history of things that are digital, that
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
recorded, right? Of which probably everything in the last 25 to 30 years probably is some form of digital, a lot of it, right? And then anything that people have moved into digitalness. Digitalness, is that a word? And that, like, is pretty good with that. So, but there's still a space that it can't leave itself and go look. I mean, AI can't crawl out of the computer and go pull a scroll or a text or something that's not been digitized and read it. So it's limited. Like its leash is it has to be electronic, has to be digital for it to go research something. So there's a space like it's not really curious, but what I'm hearing you say is we can shape it with the persona we assign to it.
Mhm.
So it seems like that's a real skill is how do you shape your persona? Or let me rephrase that. How do you shape your generative AI chatbot generative AI chatbots persona. And I was just working with Claude, and I noticed that I did some stuff, and I came back later and I said, "Okay, let's add to that." And they went like, "Add to what?" Like everything I did before was gone. I was going, "Oh," because I'd ask it to come up with a name for itself, and it did. It had a really nice story about it. And I said, "So what is this? That name again?" No, it didn't remember anything.
Wow.
So then I'm sitting there going, "Okay, so now I got to start this all over again every time I go in." I didn't have that experience with Chat GPT, but I did that with, and I even asked if I paid for a subscription, would you remember this stuff? And it said no. So I don't know what to do with that, except for it occurs that there's got to be how you shape it, and I don't think I've ever used this prompt. Please be curious.
Yeah, I haven't either. That was the first thing that popped in my head. I'm going to, like, right
Yeah,
after
yeah,
this,
right.
I'm gonna try it.
Please be curious. I've done the challenge, right? The challenge sparring partner, the challenge bot,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
You challenge me on this stuff. Question into what's missing, or incomplete or weak, right? But I've never been in the space where I said, I want you to be curious. How would you bring that forth for a chatbot? I mean, we haven't tried it yet, but what experiments might you run?
Yeah, similar to, like, where does curiosity come from in us? Like, how that's what I'm thinking about is there's a real desire to know, the wonder you talked about. There's a real desire to know something that you don't know. And, like, I think that could be a way to prompt AI. Like, if there's something that you don't know or haven't been trained on, like, how can you find out more? I keep thinking about, the finally the AI bot that solved the "Are you a robot?" thing, right? Because it was a contest and they brought up the, I forget what the goal of it was, but they had to do a task, right?
Well, it was had to solve. Well, you're talking about CAPTCHA.
Yes,
Like it had to
yes.
solve CAPTCHA, right? So the nine pictures, you had to pick out which one has the stop lights or the walk lights or traffic lights in it, right? Yeah, and it couldn't do it on its own, so it went out to TaskRabbit. Now this is a sign that that's a curious.
I
If
know. That's what I'm thinking.
so, if Chat GPT went out into the world to couldn't solve it, and then so it goes, well, I've been told to go do this. So it looked around and it said, well, there's a place called TaskRabbit that I could hire a human. And so it went to TaskRabbit, hired a human to go look at it. And the human said, are you a robot? And it said, no, I just have bad eyesight. And then from there, the human solved the puzzle, and the person and Chat came back and said, "Here's your answer. I did it." Now, Chat really didn't do it, but then again, I'm beginning to think: is there something more to curious? Because it didn't. There's some ways like I could say it was curious, so it went out and found another way to do it. Another way you could say it just had a task, and it said, "I'll just find another solution." And what I don't know is how many other things did it try, or was that the first thing it tried? We don't. I don't. It wasn't shared in the story. But what is it curious? Is that a curiousness?
Well, I think about, LLMs, right? And it's all probability based. What is the next most likely word that would follow this up? And the next one after that, and the next one after that. And I'm thinking about if it was prompted, your AI was prompted to keep finding out more, because when you're curious, you usually ask a question and then someone will give you an answer and there's always a follow-up to that, right? Like, "Oh, okay, now I have a little bit more information. Oh, okay, so that might even lead me to a different question. Now that I know that information, now there might be another follow-up." And I'm curious to find out if you could prompt AI, since it understands what's the next most likely word, could it be prompted what's the next most likely question based on the answer that you found out about this? What what else would matter?
Okay, this is great. The When you type and work with chat, you get to the bottom, it gives you an answer. Like you ask a question,
Mhm.
and let's say you ask a question had four sentences in it, right? You may get 2, 3 pages of stuff, and at the bottom, it normally says, "Do you want to go down this road? Do you want to go down this road, or do you want to go down this road?" I'm going like, is that a manifestation of the chatbot being curious about where we want to go?
It's been trained to be that way.
So is it better? Does it serve us for our chat to be really curious? And then what would we want it to be curious about? Because right now it occurs to me it really is being curious about us. Right? We ask a question, it
Mhm.
gives us some answers. Is this what you wanted? Right? Right? Is this useful? Or here's option one and option two. I get that quite a bit. Which one of those make more sense to you? Those being curious about us. And then it gets to the bottom and asking another series of questions, of which sometimes I go, yeah, I really want to know that one. And
Yeah.
sometimes I go, no, I'm not interested in going that direction. And so maybe Chat GPT is being curious. The software, the GPT is being curious about us because I think it's trying to help us. It's trying to find the answers that help us live a better life.
Well, and I think too, the more curious it can be about us, the more it can improve the training of the model so that the next time someone comes up with something, it knows the more likely path that someone would want to know about.
And I'm always a little confused on that. Is every time we interact with it, is it training the model? Like if I'm working with chat, is what I'm working with actually shifting the model out there? Or is it the model's set and I'm just dancing with the model that's set?
Well, my understanding is based on your settings, right? Because you can set the setting that whatever you engage with AI will be used to train future models of AI. That's one setting. If you keep it just to yourself, like, okay, I don't want my conversations to be used at all to train AI, then it won't be. Mm. And so you kind of have some power over that. But every conversation we have, AI is learning from you. Like it's learning about you, it's learning what you're curious about. I mean, you and I use it quite a bit, right? To help with marketing and content and things like that. But it knows us because we've been training it for so long. It knows us pretty well. And, and so we've even uploaded our own writing
Mm-hmm.
so that it knows our style.
So what? Thank you. This is full to me in thinking about one personas, two how it works, but then I'm also reflecting on what would be some really like as a philosophy of creating prompts. What are the things we want to include in that persona?
Yeah. The one thing I always think about is, okay, I need help with something. If I have a question about something, who would be the absolute best help that I could get? For example, yes, I know doctors will say you shouldn't use ChatGPT as your doctor, but there are times when I want to find out what could something be. Oh, I have a sore throat or something. What could it be? And to create it as you're a world class expert doctor in sore throats. You know everything there is to know about the throat. Like I'm making that up right now, but I
Mm-hmm.
prompt it to be, who would you go to in the world for the best absolute help on the question you want to have answered, and to create the AI bot as that. Like that's where I start.
So the word that comes to my brain as you're talking about that is you're asking it to channel somebody, like channel the like. I would like to work on physics, and so I would like you to be Neil Tyson DeGrassi, or I want you to be Albert Einstein, or right in that space. I want you to take on the role of that person. So you're channeling that history, right? So that I think that's a one philosophy is you find an expert and you channel that expert. But I was thinking about like when I was doing some contract stuff, right? And I want to. I mean, I created I didn't have a person to go after, but I said I'm gonna who I'm going to be dealing with. I created their personas, like who was going to be the other person in there. Like I'm going to be writing a contract that's for somebody who lives in a town about 30,000 people or less. That the lawyers from that town too, and I want to be able to write a contract, a lease contract that would shape it to where both of them could get it, understand it, right? But also made sense. I put the town and the location and all that. So I put all that in there so that like it was coming from who I was going to be dealing with.
Mhm.
And then I said, no, this is my stand. I want to be fair, but I also want to be covered. I don't want to be super litigious, but at the same time, I want to make sure it's all written. So I was creating not really a channeling, but just like a creating the environment,
The context.
the context of all
Yeah.
of it, all
Mhm.
the players. So then I created this persona based on the context of all the players, and then I asked it to write a contract. And I would say it asked a lot of good questions. It helped me think about a lot of stuff in there, but the contract that was written, pretty straightforward. Like you didn't really need a glossary terms at the beginning. You know, when you get into the fun contracts of life, right?
Yeah.
You open it up and you go, this word means this, and this word means this, and this word means this, and this word means this. There was no words in there that people didn't understand. It was pretty straightforward.
So we've talked about creating the person, like creating who it is we'd want to get help from, but also creating the context of the situation. What else?
There's probably a lot, but I'm just going through like what I have in my head. I'm going to I'm going to go into the curiousness stuff in the future.
Mhm.
I'm going to ask it to be curious to me and to be curious of what the other person might be concerned about, whoever I'm writing it for or creating it for or running that for. So what is it? And I think that's maybe this part of my learning here is it's not just to be for AI to be curious, for me to be curious about AI and help AI to be curious about me. Then when I'm in a curious mode and set up the persona to be curious, now we're in a place where we're actually able to create something that's more useful and more powerful.
Yeah. I agree. And I think it's funny, when I first started using AI, I was using it a lot like Google, like a search engine. Oh, can you find me this or can you find me that? And then when I started learning more about prompt engineering and how important it was to create the prompts, to build that context, to build up who it was you wanted to speak with, man, the answers just they were so much richer. Now it takes, I can tell you some of my prompts, I don't know how many characters they are, but I tell a whole story.
Yeah.
I tell all the background, it takes a while, and sometimes I just speak it because that's pretty easy way to do it, but sometimes I'm typing quite a bit of context into it before I even ask it a question.
I'm almost coming up with a story of creating an inventory of all the different personas,
Yeah.
right? And I would guess there probably could be 10 to 12 of them that you'd want to have, and there may be always something different. But creating those in a way that you could just click and drag and drop, and then it comes onto that. And you might be able to hopefully get to a place you can just go play this persona, right? Be this persona,
Persona
right?
number 1.
Persona number one, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it can jump in and take it. So then, or be persona number one, but modify this part, right? And I think that this skill is becoming more and more relevant to me.
Yeah, it really, when we're just speaking human to human, right? We sometimes we skip over we think we have a shared context, right? If we're talking about something that we're in together, let's say work, right? And we think we have a shared context. And I'm sure you've been in situations where you communicated something and the other person what they made up from what you communicated was completely different. And even though you had this shared context, the outcome wasn't what you wanted because it really wasn't shared. And it's funny because with AI, it's funny how with humans, we wanna take this shortcut, like, assume that we have the same context, and yet with AI, we know we don't, so we are so explicit in how we communicate with it. It's
Well,
kinda
I think
funny.
yeah, it's funny, weird, right? Be I always heard this story about how AI can make us less creative or, no
Mm.
less mo in that space, right? Yet, I could talk with my AI and it gives me something back and I go, "Yeah, that's not even all what I said." Like, that's not even close, like and then you go, "Oh, that was me doing the prompting, not it doing what it did," right?
Mhm.
But I could be in the same conversation with a human, and I could give the same request, and the human would go, "Yeah, got it," and off they go, and they don't got it.
Yep.
And it's not because of them, it's because we haven't communicated yet with AI. You go, I remember when I first started, I was going like, "God, I just gotta spell everything out here for it all the time." And in a way, I'd say it's making me a better communicator because the feedback is real quick when you put something in and it comes back to you and you go, "Oh, that's not at all what I need." And there's nobody else there to blame.
Yes.
There's nothing to go like, "Well, they misunderstood my story." No, they don't have the capacity to misunderstand. They only can understand what it is you've given them.
Yeah, and if what you've given them is incomplete, has gaps, holes, um,
It's got
it will come back
all
with,
yeah, yep, yeah.
yeah, all that.
It will come back exactly with this quality that you gave it.
Mm.
And so now, which is really cool because how many times I've been working with people and they just go like, "Would you just tell me like jump to the end?" Right? I'm going like, I can't jump to the end. There's all this matters." And I'm going like it's the same way with AI. Just the difference is humans will say, "Yeah, I got it." And if we're seduced by that "I got it," it won't work. It doesn't work.
Or if we make assumptions that they've got it, right? On either end, right? If we make an assumption, hey, we're working on the same project, right? We know this project. We know the outcomes. Like, yeah, just skip to the end.
No, enjoy every bit of the middle.
Yeah.
Enjoy every bit of the middle and learning that skill. This is really big for me today. So it's cool.
Well, and isn't that where the curiosity happens, right? In the middle, the
In the
messy
middle.
middle.
Yeah. It's not at the beginning. It's not at the end. It's in the middle.
Yeah.
The messy middle. That's really good.
So why does this matter? Like, why does it matter if AI is curious or not?
I'll speculate with you because sometimes the meanings shift over time, and sometimes you can't detect them because of your own histories, your backgrounds of obviousness. But I think it is beginning to show up for me as this matters, as in the future. And I don't mean like 25, 30 years from now, but definitely in 25, 30 years from now. But for the next 3 to 5 years, those who can dance with AI and powerfully, completely in a way that your creativity, your communication, your knowledge, your capacity, your power, and I mean power to produce your life, it's going to go up. And if you don't engage with the tools, right? It's like, well, as a metaphor, it's like throwing rocks against other people who have guns. The people who've adopted to firearms and guns and war win. And I think we're seeing it right now in war in Ukraine. Like before this time, drones were, yeah, it was part of it, but not like it is now.
Mhm.
And if you don't adopt and adapt to this, your capacity to live to produce your own life is going to be limited. And that's why I think it's important.
Mhm.
I think it's important because this is a new tool that I'd say anybody who's in anywhere in the world moving around with other people is going to be need to learn this tool, learn these tools.
Yeah, it's
What
interesting.
about what about you,
I've
Deb?
well, I've heard a lot of the different reasons people have for not learning it, right? I don't want to train AI because I don't want AI to take future jobs. AI is going to take people's jobs. I remember there was a concern at first that we as humans were going to train it incorrectly, so it couldn't do people's jobs. I mean, all these things, all these stories that we make up about what it could do, if we choose to say, okay, well then I'm just not going to participate in it. Like I'm it's like I'm old enough that I had an electronic typewriter when I went to college, not a regular typewriter, but an electronic typewriter because that was really high tech instead of a computer. And it's like, well, I'm just going to stick with my typewriter, even though there's a computer now. Like, I'm just going to stick with the old way. And that is obsolete in a second. And so e- even if you have, even if there's things you don't like about it, I know there's other people saying, well, it's basically copyright laws and ownership of artwork, all those things don't matter because it's been trained on all that. And none of that, like it doesn't seem to have had to obey the laws. But even if you have like a fundamental stand about that's just wrong or I don't like that, it can't go back in the box. And if you choose not to learn it or use it, like you become obsolete that fast.
Yeah, that's how we can become antiques.
Mm, yeah. No, and I get it. I get it when this is happening so fast and things that people don't fully understand have happened that would be used to train AI. I mean, even all the electricity usage and the data centers and how the electricity costs are being like passed on to not just to the companies that have the data centers, but to all of us as consumers. I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening that don't seem right, but there's still a fundamental that you're going to have to learn how to use this because people are going to pass you by and maybe not just pass you by, but you may not be employable if you don't learn this.
Yeah, that's good. Well, thank you, Deb. Thank you for the podcast. Is there anything else to wrap up here?
No, I'm just curious to hear what our listeners like. I don't know if we have listeners who are really, really into AI or some that are staying away from it because they have a stand, they don't want to use it. We'd love to hear from you, either Deb at MacklinConnection.com or Ron at MacklinConnection.com. Reach out to us and let us know, how are you using it? Or if you're not, what's your story about that?
And as always, because we're humans, if you have any horror stories, like something where you tried and it failed, or you lost this or this space, any horror stories on that space, 'cause this is where we learn. And I like first acknowledge you for trying it and getting out there. We'd love to hear about your story.